Alright guys, my name's Adam Van Orden. You're watching live at 9:45. I apologize immediately for the delay. Facebook has been screwy for me for the past 24 hours, and I had to just restart my phone, restart my internet and everything because my first attempt failed. Which is nothing new, obviously. If you've been paying attention to me from the beginning, we always have issues, but we just roll with it and we continue on and we make things happen. So first and foremost, I want to say thank you to all of you who have tuned in. I saw a bunch of names come down through there. I saw several questions. No, I did not make the music. And Brad, no, nothing is wrong with your phone. Actually, one of my local friends made this music, and so on and so forth. John, we're actually going to interview you, and if you would hit that camera with the plus sign, that would be amazing. I could bring you in as soon as I'm done talking. Additionally, a couple things I want to talk about before I get started tonight. A, thanks for tuning in. If you don't know what you've tuned into, this is Live at 9:45 with me, Adam Van Ord from Van Ord Customs. I am here to talk to John Thornton. I will interview him, ask him a bunch of questions. John works for RC Four-Wheel Drive. He also is the person who started the East Coast Scale Challenge, and although that has been handed over, he's played a very large instrumental role in that from the very beginning. Additionally, a couple other things that I want to shout out there tonight. My good friends Joe and Derek, they just posted up a new website, RCs with a Pedigree. So it's Joe and Derek's RCs with Pedigree. My truck, the Purple Nurple, is featured this week, and they're featuring someone new every week, and it's all about the trucks. So I'd like to talk about the drivers, the people who build, and all of those people behind the scenes. They want to talk about those other people. Oh, John says, where's the camera with the plus? All right, I will try and add him in just a second. John, it should be right at the bottom next to where you can type in a comment. It should look like a little video camera with a plus sign. If you don't find it, I'll bring you on in just a second. Other than that, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. We don't really comment to you specifically on your questions, other than to go down through. If you do have questions, we will address them all afterwards via text, but it definitely messes with the flow of what goes on. So let me get John up on screen and start this thing off. All right. No camera, sorry. Perfect, got it. John, don't worry about cameras. I've got you, and you should be coming on any second now, sir. So.
Hey,
we did it.
There's no camera, I'm telling you.
Hey, I believe you. I believe you.
I'm not a big tech guy, but there was no camera.
That's okay. Let me tell you, the last couple have gone too good as far as the technology side of it. People logged in, it went perfect, there were no mess ups. So of course it would come back and bite me this time. And we even ran the test.
That's all right. Just blame it on me.
That's okay. So John takes all of the blame, and so it was totally him. So how are you doing tonight?
Good. Finally, hopefully the snow's done.
I would hope so.
Mid-April, and it snowed all day yesterday and snowed today, so hopefully it's done now.
Man, I hope so.
Yeah.
So let's kind of fire this thing up. Tell us a little bit about you.
A little bit about me. I've lived in Pittsburgh and surrounding area all my life. I have 2 daughters. That's where the gray hair's from. I married my high school sweetheart, and a lot of you probably know Tina. She's been at East Coast and a couple other events, but I've been dating her since we were 16, so it's been a long time. But other than that, that's about it. I mean, I enjoy RC and I like having fun. So
awesome. Well, those are good things to hear. How long have you been in the RC hobby in general?
You know, I'm thinking about that. It's probably been about 16 years, possibly a little longer than that. I'm trying to think of when the first time I touched an RC, but I'd say probably about 16 years, maybe a bit longer than that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Who or what got you into the hobby to start with?
Well, you know, it's pretty funny. I got a job selling years ago, and one of the guys I called on, and actually some people on here probably know Steve Barry. He passed away, but Steve Stock. but him and I'd call on him all the time, and we started talking about RCs, and he wanted to get into it, and I wanted to get into it, and it was one of those things where let's go do it. So we both went out and bought TXT1s, and that was our first attempt at RC. And then we fell into the nitro stuff. We got into T-Maxes, and we were doing slammed on T-Maxes with Road Rage Proline tires on it and all that, and would race in the parking lots. And then eventually RC Crawler came on board, and that's when I started cutting up my TXT.
Nice. Went for the scale truck build, huh?
Yeah. Well, that was back when 90-degree articulation was something that you wanted. I have pictures of my axles just like that, and that was like the whole thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, that should make perfect sense.
Yeah.
So your first hobby grade RC you kind of just covered, but for the people out there watching, this would be a great time for you to kick in. And while you're up there typing comments and so on and so forth, what was your first hobby grade RC? And then we'll kind of check those out later and get a good kick out of all of that fun stuff too. So, John, if you weren't in RC, what would be your hobby of choice?
It would probably be the hobby that I was in before I got into this. I used to shoot competition pistol.
Okay.
And I was into that for years. It was pretty competitive. I did combat shoots. I did 100-yard plates. I did silhouettes, and traveled around and did that kind of thing, and moved and got away from the club that I used to do, and kind of got away from it and sold the guns and bought the RCs.
All right. I got you. That makes sense. So my family was into competitive archery for a little while. So
okay.
The competitive side of the shooting sports, I guess, is.
Yeah. My dad did that. My dad did archery.
Yeah. My parents were really into Spot League. And so they drove all over, or not Spot League, 3D archery. So they drove all over on the eastern side of the country here and went to 3D shoots. So it was pretty cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. My next question for you is, are you a big tire guy or a small tire guy?
It all depends. I probably people have seen the rigs that I have. I'm all over the board. I'm not specific to one or the other. It all depends on what it is. And I mean, it can be, monster trucks. It can be semis. It can be, I'm into all that stuff. So I'm not picky as long as they're round.
You don't like square tires per se?
No. We're working on that.
Oh, gotcha. Brushed or brushless?
Same situation. Most of my stuff is brushed, just because of the ease of it. Brushless I was into for a while, but most of the stuff now I'm running is go slow stuff. So, a 35 turn brushed motor is like fine for me, and if I blow it up, I just put another one in. So it makes it a lot easier. Yeah,
I hear you there. They definitely both have their places, and that's the answer I get from a lot of people. And it's interesting that people aren't just like gung ho one way or the other. So
right. No one wants to commit to one of them.
I will only be brushed or only be brushless. Like they definitely have their places.
Yep.
What do you like most about the RC hobby?
Oh man. Probably the biggest thing is the people. I mean, Adam, I met you at East Coast, and it's one of those things where you meet some great people, and all through the whole, I'm trying to see who's coming up, because there's some names here that I haven't seen in a while, but it's really cool to get friendships that are long distance, and you can talk to people like you talk to them every day, and you have the same passion, and that's what I love about it. I mean, that's why I started back in 2000, what was it, 8 or something, 5. I started the WPAC, the Western PA Crawlers, and what a great group of people they were. And some of them are still around, and I still, Dell and Jay Lewis and all those guys. I mean, it's just great to see all those guys when we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan, way back in the day when you were, what was it, East Coast, what was it, Eastern PA Crawlers.
Yeah.
And Lomans there, remember Monster Jam. Yeah. That was, I think that was my first official trail competition in a mushroom farm.
Nice. That's awesome. As a current employee in the RC industry, what is your title and what does your workday kind of look like?
It looks like this. My title is Business Development Manager. And basically my job is to develop business. So I'm in contact worldwide with distributors, dealers, opportunities to grow the business. So that's kind of what I do on a daily basis. Some of the people on here are I see are dealers. Nick's on here, so he probably knows because I talk to him a lot. So yeah, it's just making sure that everybody out there knows our products and is on board.
So you said you live in the Pittsburgh area. Do you work from home then, or is it like a combo type thing? You have to fly out for a while, or like RC 4-wheel drives isn't really centered in Pittsburgh, I don't believe.
No. They're based out of California.
Yeah.
Yeah. I work out of home office, which is my shop and my home office. And most of my business is either through emails, phone calls, that kind of stuff. So,
Gotcha.
But I go to California and obviously travel around a lot to go see customers.
All right. What was your profession prior to working full-time in the RC industry?
I was sales for Moen Faucets. I was a regional business manager for Moen Faucets. Then I was operations and sales manager for a local plumbing company here, and then from there I came over to RC 4-wheel drive. All
right. So a nice history of sales, and then kind of sliding into a sales and making your hobby your job. So
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I have a question from Jason Page, who he PM'd it to me like 2 minutes before it was time. He's like, if this isn't too late, can you ask this question? And so I'm putting you on the spot, so I'm not sure you'll know the answer, but on a percentage basis, what kind of growth has RC 4-wheel drive seen in the last 10 years?
I don't know.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be on the spot, but it's definitely growing, right? Like, it's got to be growing.
Yeah. Oh.
Uh-oh. We're stuck. Still there? I would bet, guys, that he probably got a phone call, and he'll be right back in just a second. So what happens is, if you're on a live video feed and you get a phone call, it pretty much pauses what's going on. Yeah, no one can answer that question. That would be my guess, and then he might have hit a button or something. So I'm sure we'll get him right back in, and we won't have any issues. So while I have this break in what's going on, I want to talk about some upcoming people that I have. Next week, I have Joshua Kane Elliott, who is the guy that runs Extreme Scale Performance. His channel is awesome. I would highly recommend going and checking him out. The following week, May 3rd, I have Lee Hicks, who is putting on the Scale Nationals this year. And he's got some thick skin. He's caught a lot of grief for doing it on the East Coast, and lots of people questioning some things. So we're going to ask him some tough questions and grill him a little bit. Following that, I have Mike Lohman, who is Mike's RC World, and his gorgeous collection of trucks that are out there. Oh my gosh. We could probably just spend the whole time panning around the room looking at vehicles. 17th, I have Eddie Goodridge, who is the guy behind Team Brood. He's the brains of it. He's running the whole thing, and so we'll talk about brushed motors, brushless motors. And May 24th, I have Chris DeGraff lined up, who is Hemistorm, and I'm pretty excited about that. He is an amazing artist with a paint can, and hopefully that will be a good conversation. I also have a whole list of people inside of this Facebook group that were doing all kinds of thing. Yep, I'll resend you the invite in just a second, John. I have all kinds of people inside of the Facebook group who were messaging up names and so on and so forth. And so I'll be touching base with a bunch of those people and see what's going on and how to help them out and maybe get them on, because there isn't a name that's been added that I wasn't interested in. So as John's filtering back in, we'll get, hey, how's it going?
Sorry about that. The phone
It's
was
all
falling.
good.
I went to grab it and hit something.
Hey, that I figured it was either that or sometimes when people get phone calls, it like kills your live feed like right away.
Oh, no. I have it standing up because I didn't want you guys looking down up my nostrils.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
Sorry about that.
No problem. So my next question on the list is: do you compete in scale competitions, and if so, what is your favorite style or format for competition?
Oh, I think we should let everybody else answer that one for me if I compete. You know what? I competed a long time ago, and then when I started organizing events, I got away from it. It just didn't make sense to do it. I mean, you're wrapped up in things that you really just can't keep your mind on it. So I would just, kind of do it on the side. But now with the changes, I'm starting to compete a little bit more. Had the opportunity to do it a couple times so far, and just need to do it a little bit more. I love the Class 1.
Yep.
I love leafed trucks. I just think the way they react and the feel that you get, especially if you ever wheeled with a real leafed vehicle, you get that same feeling, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So people who are paying attention, watching, so on and so forth, comment up what kind of style of competition you like the best. Is it Sorka? Is it G6? Is it whatever? And kind of let us know from there. John, I have another one for you, and it kind of begins talking a little bit about the East Coast Scale Challenge. And that's really how I grew into knowing who you were and recognizing you and your name and all of that stuff. So
Right.
You're known as the person who kind of started all of that, sparked all of that.
Right.
What's the story behind how ECSC came to be?
Well, you know what? My first experience with a national event, running one, was Motorama back in 2009, 10, something around there. And I had the opportunity to do that. And it was an opportunity for me to bring some West Coast drivers over to the East Coast. And it was the one thing that I realized, that on the East Coast here, early in the hobby, or in that segment, no one knew the people from the West Coast. And we were just getting into it. And the West Coast had already had it. So there were some big names there that people would see on forums and that kind of stuff that I had met because I had traveled a little bit. So it was something I said, I want to get those guys over. So people like Jake, I brought Jake over, and I'm trying to think of who else I brought over. But I brought some people over, and it was really cool. So after the Motorama thing died, I kind of stopped doing big events, and I started to tie it into family and camping and that type of stuff. So I had done small camping. It was crawling camp is what it was called. I did that for a couple of years, and then I've known Deb and Rick at Rose Point. My gosh, my kids were babies when we used to go camping there. Mm-hmm. So I started talking to her about it and just said, is this something? And she was kind of apprehensive. I said, are we going to get enough people? Is it something that we really want to do? That type of thing. After the first year, that first year, she just said, I had no idea that this was this big. And, obviously the first year was the test year. I had people like War Pig there. Throughout the time I had, Harley was there a couple years ago. Who else was there? Chino came out the one time, Dino. So, it's just really cool. And there were a ton of people did. I'm not I don't want people to go, I forgot about you, but I know all of you guys that came out, it was awesome. But it was really to get the East Coast, let the East Coast get a feel for some of these people that they just saw their names on forums and that type of thing. So it was kind of cool, and it's just evolved. I mean, you know, the second year we sold out in, I think it was 22 hours, and then the third year I think we sold out in, I think it was like 2 hours, and then I guess this year it was even, you know, those guys have just knocked it out of the park. So
yeah,
you know, I don't know what they're going to do at this point, expanding it or whatever, you know, buying some property next to it or something. I don't know.
So speaking of those guys, who are those guys? And so you handed it over to them, and I'll let you name them, but I think they did a phenomenal job last year of kind of carrying on things and putting into place and making it run incredibly well. And you know, I think people were a little apprehensive because it wasn't John, it was some other people. And
right.
So I think they took some slack, but they definitely weathered the storm, and they did a phenomenal job. Like, I was incredibly impressed. I was really happy. Last year was the year that I spent the most time there, and I had a blast. So
yeah. I had some health issues and that type of thing the third year that we had it, and made it really tough, and come to the conclusion that it was something that I had to pass on. You know, I didn't want it to die off, and I know everybody didn't want it to die off. So I started just looking at who would be somebody that's young enough, that has a following behind them, you know, like a club or something like that. Because I mean, obviously, you know, the group here had fallen apart, so a lot of it was myself, and then, you know, like Jay would come up and a couple other guys would come up and help, but you know, it was kind of put on me to do this, and it was just making it very hard. So I wanted to make sure that we got a couple people to do it. So Ed Picola, RC Four-Wheel Drive team driver, Matt Lockwood, met him. What a great guy. They had the passion. In fact, I told them that they reminded of me, you know, 10 years ago. Right. And they just had that passion for it. And it's not about anything other than, you know, expanding the love for the hobby. And that's exactly what I wanted to hand it to. I wanted to hand it to somebody. It's like a baby, you know, you want to hand it to someone that's going to take care of it. And, you know, yeah, they had their bumps, and, you know, I had my bumps when I did it, you know, and, you know, they'd get on the phone and be like, oh my gosh, you know, I don't know if this was the right thing to do, you know, but they weathered through it, and it's fantastic. Now it's their event. I just go there, and I actually drove last year for the first time. So it was kind of nice on my side, and I'm here for them. I mean, we talk a lot, and, you know, if they have any questions or if they need any help, I'm here. But they're doing an awesome job.
I couldn't agree more. And I was super lucky in the fact that so they were kind of hanging out with Goldwing, and most of the people who are watching this will have no idea who Goldwing is. But I was sitting over there and talking to him and his wife, and so Ed and Matt came over, and I got to hang out and kind of have like legit heart to heart with them about the event and talk about some stuff. And the amount of work and planning and preparation and all of that stuff that goes into the East Coast Scale Challenge is just so intense. Those guys really need like a round of applause, or hit some like buttons for them, some hearts, whatever they got out there. They really, really put some effort in to make it be what it is. And I know that's what you were doing as well. Right. So.
Oh yeah. And that's any big event that, you know, it's funny because some people go to these events and things don't always go like you planned, you know, whether it's judging or, you know, whatever it is. And they don't realize that, you know, months ahead of time, this has been worked on. I mean, Matt and Ed and I have been talking about this event for 2018. We talked about it 2 days after the other event ended. So it's like a year of prepping, and things happen. And it's just, you know, you always have to sit back and remember what it's about. And it's about, you know, people having fun. And, you know, my wife would always say that. She'd be like, why do you do this? My gosh, you're just, but whenever we're at the awards banquet, and everybody's there, and I'm looking at everybody's, laughing and talking to people that they never met, and
Right.
that kind of thing. That just it's right there for me. I mean, that's what I love about it, because that's why I created it, and that's why most of the people that create events, that's why they do it, because of that reaction.
Yeah. No, I totally get what you're talking about. And so, guys, if you're in the PA area, or you're within like 2 or 3 hours of Newcastle, you absolutely should drive out. Tickets, no tickets, it's worth coming out and checking out the East Coast Scale Challenge. There are people walking around. It is like tiny truck mecca. You just walk around, they're driving past you, they're on table. It's
Yep.
So you should totally come and check it out.
Definitely.
I'm going to shift it just a little bit and talk a little bit about some building stuff. And I have to ask, you've been in this for a while. What is sorry, I just got a notification on my phone. I'm going to have to take care of it in a second. But how many trucks have you built at this point? Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
For some reason, I have a charger that charges my phone, and it's not charging, apparently. So we're going to have an issue if I keep going.
Okay. How many that I've built, I have no idea. What I do know, I've gotten rid of. That's one thing that I learned too late, that some of the trucks that I've built in the past, I wish I still had. So for all you people that are just getting into it, think before you sell it.
So what's the one that you sold that, like, if you could have it back right now, you'd buy it back?
It would be the Mighty FC. That was the 4-door FC. I had Dreedy build the body on a TF2. I lengthened the TF2, and I was able to take it to. I live in Butler, which is the home of Jeep. That's where Jeep was invented, and I was at the Bantam Jeep Festival, and the real FC was there, and I got to meet Jeep Underground, and they took pictures with it and all that, and it was one of those things that it was sitting here. I should have just put it in the case, but someone really wanted it, and they collect Dreedy builds, so I knew that it was going to a good place. But I still, to this day, I wish I kept it, just because of what it was.
Yeah. No, I get that. I haven't sold one that I want back yet, so I've at least been paying a little bit of attention to that. I don't know. I think, but it's hard when someone offers you and you've got something else in mind.
Right.
But I'm not missing anything that I've built or done yet. So
yeah, that's the only one that I probably, if I could pull the strings back, that's the one I would do.
Yeah. So how many RC vehicles do you have in your collection?
Is my wife around?
No, she's not watching. She'll never see
Okay.
that.
I've got a lot. I don't know if you can see here. I've got those there. I've got them in the case there. I've got them back there. And then I've got another shop in my garage, and I've got some more there. So I've got a lot. I've got a lot that I still need to build. That's the one thing I've found, that I can't find time for that. I have a LC70 sitting in there that I got to build. I've got my camo Blazer that's about half done. So yeah, I've got a lot of stuff, and I also have a couple boats and some other stuff too. So I love RC. And that's what it's about. I mean, obviously I'm into the scale stuff,
right?
But if anything RC, it catches my eye.
Perfect. And so that kind of answers one of my questions. What's the draw to scale versus the other types of RC? Like you're into the other ones a little bit, but why the focus on that?
Well, the scale, when I was little, I did a lot of model building.
Okay.
And, you know, you had the model and you built it and you pushed it around on your desk and you went vroom, vroom, you know, and now you can build them and drive them. So, you know, that's the part of it that I love about it. You can get as detailed as you want. You can create whatever you want, and it's yours. You know, I mean, it's funny when people do things and then other people go, well, why would you have done that? Well, it's because it's mine. It's what I wanted to do, you know, and that's what's really cool about it. I mean, you know, semi-trucks, as you saw, I have semi-trucks. I've got the trucks. Yep. I've got cars. I've got the boats. I have a boat that you have to do all the wood, which I haven't touched yet. I'm going to do that when I retire, I think.
Spend a little time on a boat project.
Yeah.
Who are or were your influences in the Scale RC community? And if you were to pick people to have on the show, who would you pick? Someone, a couple people, whatever.
Wow. Influences, you know what? It's real hard for me to pick someone that's an influence because everybody has there's so many people that have given me something that has made me in the hobby that I'm at. So it's real hard to do that. You know, I mean, people like, you know, Warpig that I've become friends with, and, you know, all these people that you never thought that, you know, you meet them at an event or whatever, but you still, I mean, I'll be working here and all of a sudden, like, Tim will text me, hey, how's it going?
Right.
Yeah. Like, you know, that's pretty cool. But, it's just, I don't know. That's hard for me to do because so many people have influenced me in this hobby that it's hard to do. For people to interview, you know, you're getting a great group of people. You know, I'm seeing Hemi Storms coming on. You're gonna have to rate that one maybe like PG-13.
Yeah, so maybe we need to have a little talk beforehand, is what you're saying?
That's not going to help.
Okay, we'll put a disclaimer in the heading and say, this one might be a little outside of the family-friendly version.
Either that or you do it a delay so that you can, you know, hit the button. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, you got some, you know, just some great people. So I would say, you know, I don't know who else you could. I mean, really. I mean, you're doing a good job of gathering those people up.
I'm trying. I'm just sending messages and listening to what people say as to who they'd like to hear from. And
yep.
You know,
well, that's what's really cool about this is, you know, part of what was neat about this and when you contacted me is it feels like exactly what I told you about trying to get people from the West Coast to the East Coast. What you're doing is you're connecting people that in most instances might never, you know, meet. They might say, oh yeah, I know Rock Crawler with No Vowels, you know, he's on forums, or, you know, right. I know this guy, or I know that guy, or pardon my noob, or, you know, whatever. It's just neat to be able to do this with the technology and someone say, oh my God, that's him. I mean, it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Thank you. That was my original goal. And then, so there's another piece of it that's really cool for me. So being a little selfish is that I get to talk to all these people that I've followed or like brushed past at events. And so then I get to like, I want to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you the question. So
right.
I get to know the things and all that.
And it's not awkward. You're not going up and saying, hey, you're famous.
Hey, do you like a brushed motor or a brushless motor? So, no, I'm not doing that. I'm just, you know,
right.
asking questions. So
no, that's cool.
All right. My next question is another one that people have a really hard time with, and it is, what is your favorite truck that's floating around out there on the internet that is not your own? So you've seen a bunch of other people's builds. What one's out there that you're like, oh my, that one's not mine, but I just love it?
You know what? And someone else said this too, but I'm That Guy's Half Track is just only because it's something so unique. Mm-hmm. That, oh my gosh. I mean, I just drives me nuts. any of the semis. I mean, our team driver, that has the semi. I mean, Brooks. I mean, it's just unbelievable the stuff that comes out of that. I mean, I do semis and I try and do them, as detailed as I can. But to see some of these is just amazing. So, it's so hard for me to name that too. I mean, but if I had to name one right now, it would be the half track because of it just being so unique.
Yeah. That one's super high up there on my list. The amount of detail and all of that is just intense. And so I was lucky enough to have Matt on and talk to him, and that was a privilege in itself because he builds some crazy cool stuff.
Brooks is the Suburban. That's the one. I saw that. That's cool. That's a really cool one too.
I agree.
So, I mean, anything like that is out of the norm. Noob did a Suburban when we first came out with the Blazer. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of stuff I think is just really cool.
Right. Awesome, man. Social media or forums?
You know what? That's two. I think at this point it's two separate things. Mm-hmm. Social media is that instantaneous, post something up, you get reaction, and that's it. The problem with social media is you put something out there, and within an hour, it's way down below.
Yep.
What I like about the forums are, like for technical stuff, is it's always there, and you can search it. That's what I like. I mean, we have our forum, the RC Four-Wheel Drive forum. I had Network Hobbies, and Network Hobbies. There's not much on it anymore, activity-wise, but there's so much content that I don't want to shut it off because there's just so much content in there that people even they'll say, hey, how do you do this? And I'll pull up that and I'll say, here, check this out. Where on social media, it's gone. I mean, you can't find it. So I think there's really a need for both. Mm-hmm. And if it's used that way, I think they both can, coexist.
Right. Yeah, I like what you're saying. I'd say, like, social media, it's almost impossible to do any kind of technical information. Especially, I mean, there's search options and so on and so forth, but it's pretty hard. But if I'm looking for something like to figure something out, it definitely would be the forum for me.
Yep.
So what advice would you give someone who is just starting out in the hobby? They went out, they picked out their brand new kit, they're building it, they can't wait to go out and put that first battery through it. What kind of advice do they need?
Have fun. I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, don't try and keep up with everybody else. Do the things that you want to do when you want to do them. When we were strong into the comp scene, you had people that would come in that the kids would spend, their allowances to buy, an AX10 and mm-hmm. that come out, and you'd have some of the people at the comp say, you can't compete with that. You need this, you need that. And it just crushed them. You gotta let people learn like you did. A lot of times we forget because we've been in it so long that, we just know that, okay, we're buying this, we're going to put these tires on it, we're going to do this. You have to think back when you first started. I mean, my gosh, I had a TXT that Bender would be like, John, you need to cut the chassis. And I'm like, I don't want to cut the chassis. He goes, you got to cut. I don't want to cut the chassis. Well, I ended up cutting the chassis when in my time. But those are the type of things that you got to let the new people experience that whole thing. And if you let them do that, then the hobby will be solid forever. What happens is a lot of times if people come in and you go, well, you got to get new tires, you got to do this, you got to do that, and it scares them away. And then all of a sudden, now you've lost somebody. So, if I had to say anything to anybody that's coming into the hobby, take it slow, enjoy the vehicle that you buy, find out what you want to add to it to make it yours, or if you see a way to make, something isn't handling right, then you do the research and you realize, oh, I need to put a little bit of weight in the front, or I need to move the battery, or whatever. That's what you want to do. You want them to experience that. It goes back to when I first started in the hobby shop that doesn't exist anymore. I had a TXT, I mean, not TXT, I had a T-Max, and I broke it. There's a surprise. I broke it. I hit into a curb or something, broke something. I went to him and I said, hey, I need this fixed. Will you fix it? And he goes, no. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I'll order you the parts. You're going to sit here next to me and you're going to learn how to fix it, because I'm not going to fix your truck. You need to learn how to work on trucks. And that's what I did. And I eventually, I probably blew up every part of that truck. So I knew how to take it apart and put it back together. And I thank this guy for doing that, because so many people come in and hand a truck and say, hey, fix it. And they walk away. And when they come back, they take it, they drive it, break it, and hand it back. None of us would be in what we're in right now if someone didn't say, no, you work on it, you build it, you fix that axle. So, I mean, that's what I anybody I talk to, I try and say that. Just enjoy it for what it is. Mm-hmm. You'll find the weaknesses, or something that maybe, hey, I need to tweak this or that. You'll find that in your time, and you'll enjoy that growth as you go. And then pretty soon you'll be at that same point as you building a three-wheeled truck. Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of stuff. That's what you want to create. If you just automatically do it, they don't appreciate it, and then they're not in it for the long haul.
Right. So I didn't have that cool hobby shop guy who was like sit down beside me. I just had I'm young and broke, and so I'm going to learn how to make all of my stuff and work on my stuff myself. Yep. I don't have any money to buy anything. Yep. So I want to make this thing perform better. I have to make the part, because there is no other option. Like, I have tools. Yep. I have a bunch of junk laying around. If I can make that junk into something, then I can do something with it. So
that's exactly it.
And that's how I did it. But it's kind of two sides of the same kind of deal.
Yeah.
Learn everything you can about your truck, and take that knowledge and kind of go from there. Yep. So I have to pose a question to you, and I'm going to pose a question to everybody else out there watching, is what is the best piece of advice that you received so far in the hobby?
You're going to fix it yourself.
I knew you were going back to it. I knew it. So I totally set that one up for myself, but it's all good. But I wanted to ask some of the other people, like, what was some good advice that you got, guys? Like, it's important, because that good advice, somebody who's watching this, maybe someone stumbles on it, either here or YouTube or on my webpage or whatever, but maybe some kid stumbles on it who just started, and he's like, what do I do? Well, all those good advice pieces that you guys are giving right now, they can read those comments, they can see those things, and it should be helpful. So, okay, next question. Where do you see the scale crawling community heading in the coming years?
Oh, I don't think there's a stop to it. With all the great thing about the scale side of it is you're always going to push scale to the next level. So, we can sit here now and say, my gosh, we've got this, we've got that. But I think back 5 years ago when 3D printing didn't exist.
Right.
It was only for the people that had, that had a lot of money or whatever. And now look what's happening. So I can only see us growing even more. I'm so excited to see what's next. Yeah. It's like the old, black and white TV to color TV to flat screen. That's what we're doing. We're seeing, back some of these guys that are posting up here were back when we were cutting up TLT kits, would buy TLT kits and throw everything out except for the link mounts and the axles. And that was it. And you would build everything around that. And now to see the stuff that's coming out, it's just phenomenal. I mean, just from everybody, it's just phenomenal.
Right. I absolutely agree with you. It just keeps going like that next step. And I've seen a huge boom in probably the last 2 or 3 years compared to so I think I've been in 7 or 8 years now. And it was kind of slowly progressing and then just explosion of crazy amounts of parts.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying.
Blake is still running TLT ones.
That I totally believe that.
Wait, 1 second though.
Yeah.
Hey Blake, I'm still waiting for my truck. That was 10 years ago.
Well, he has one for sale. You could buy that one.
I wanted it the price 10 years ago when he was a nobody.
Right, exactly. My next question is, and I bet I know the answer to this. I meant to change it and I didn't, so it's going to be an interesting one. Do you currently have any sponsors other than yourself or RC 4-Wheel Drive? And why would you choose to represent those people?
No, I don't have any.
I didn't think so.
I don't have any other sponsors. I've had sponsors in the past, but now I don't. I mean, not that anybody. I mean, my gosh, when I became a team manager for RC 4-Wheel Drive, the reason I became team manager is because Tom saw me drive and said he didn't want me representing RC 4-Wheel Drive the way I drive. So, so that's how that all started. I mean, that was back years ago when Tom still lived over here and he used to come to my events. So, but that's what he came up to me and said, "You can't represent us on the course anymore. I'm going to make you a manager."
Which is hilarious. And so I have to pause for a second and talk about the fact that somewhere out there, and whoever has it, it totally should surface. There's some footage of a race that took place at the East Coast Scale Challenge last year, and I haven't seen it.
Deny that,
but I've heard a lot about it. And if you're in the know, you know what I'm talking about. And if you're not, hopefully someone will post it up and you will completely be in the know.
I don't know what you're talking about. All I know is Tom did something with my radio and just threw it way off. I don't understand what happened there. Or he switched trucks or something happened. I don't know. But you have to let the boss win.
Oh, yeah.
You just got to do that.
Yeah, sometimes. I mean,
that's some advice I'll give you. Let the boss win.
There we go. There's some advice. So we're kind of wrapping things up here, John. We're toward the end of my questions. What should we expect to see next coming from you, or any RC 4-Wheel Drive hints? Although I'm guessing I'm not getting one of those. So.
Not really. From me, hopefully. See more of me in some comps. I'm trying to open up a little bit to get to some events. We're posting up events that we're going to be at. I'm going to be at several big 1-1 events coming up. Cool. So if you guys are in that area, please come out. I have one in Michigan, the Jeep Invasion. I'll be there. Then I'm going to be at 4-Wheel Drive Jamboree in Lima, Ohio. And then Bloomsburg, PA for another one. And then I'll be on the West Coast for Sand Sports. But, please, if you're at the events, come see me. I mean, I was in Toledo for RC Expo, and it was so cool talking to some of the people there. And, I met Eric Thornton, which blew me away. Same last name. We're building the exact same truck. It just blew me away. It's like, this is just way out of, this doesn't make sense. But I mean, that's a perfect example. You meet somebody that you never knew. I mean, we would go back and forth, but we never kind of matched up what our last names were, and he saw my name, so it's kind of cool.
That is cool.
Yep.
All right, so
yeah, John, Brian, I'll see you in Michigan. Brian Pratt.
Nice. So I'll see you at the East Coast Scale Challenge.
Yep.
I'm there all weekend this time. Family's coming. I'm excited.
Awesome.
I've kind of stepped it up every year, and I'm fully committed this year, so I'm there the whole time.
Yep. Make sure you get a mini Jalon Day, because we're going to have a mini RC adventure.
Awesome.
Yep.
What is there anything that I missed or that you'd like to add here at the end before I kind of let you go and close things out?
Not really. Just make sure you bring your tires. That's Trujillo.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand Pittsburgh language.
I get it. I'm close enough that I understand it, and I know
you understand it.
But I'm not there yet.
Okay, yeah. When we'd be talking about tires, I call them tires. And he'd always ask me what it was, so that was that. But no, not really. I enjoyed this. I really enjoyed it. Hopefully everybody enjoyed it. I'm going to go back and see what everybody said. I caught a couple people, but
yeah,
it was nice spending the time and talking to you.
Yeah, I had a blast, John. I really love doing these, and I love talking to all the people that are on. And thanks for being on. I'm thankful for you saying yes and having the chat. So,
thank you for asking me, man.
All right, so I'm gonna let you go. I'll close you out, and then I'll kind of end things out. So thanks again, and I'll be talking to you.
All right, see you, everybody.
Yep, see ya. Okay. All right, guys, that kind of closes out the show here with John. If you like what I'm doing or you have any interest in any of the stuff, check me out at vanwardcustoms.com. My Facebook page is Vanward Customs. Like and join the Live at 9:45 Facebook group so that you can get notifications about the guests that are coming on and when we go live for 9:45. Try to do it on a weekly basis and interview as many interesting and cool people in the hobby as I possibly can. Lastly, I do have an Instagram. It's Vanward_Customs. Check that out. Follow me. I post up all kinds of random cool things if you like different style photography and RC trucks and builds and that stuff. That's where a lot of my stuff like that goes. I am going to be posting on my Facebook page a contest dealing with the Scale Garage banner type stuff, so keep an eye out for that. The lucky winner of the contest will win some type of Scale Garage backdrop banner, so on and so forth, like the big thing, the real deal, the one I opened the show with a couple weeks ago. Lastly, I want to talk about the guests that I have coming on. I'm super excited to bring them to you, and I'm just going to do a rundown of that, and also say that if you want to be on or you find that you think you know someone you'd like to see on, please let me know. I would love to get a hold of them and try and bring them on. Next week, April 26th, I have Joshua Kane Elliott from Extreme Scale Performance. He does Scale Wars, which is where I got the big break with the Tri-Van over here. He also does Holmes Hobbies Motor Control and a lot of great video editing over on YouTube. On May 3rd, I have Lee Hicks, who is putting on the Cherokee Scale Nationals, which is the big event for Sorka in this year. His first year being on the East Coast, and Lee definitely has his work cut out for him, so we'll talk to him a little bit about that. On the 10th, I have Mike Lohman. Mike is known for Mike's RC World. He has just a treasure trove of gorgeous RC trucks. I mean, scale trucks, scale cars, and they're pristine. Every detail. Hopefully we will actually talk and not just look at trucks. May 17th, I have Eddie Goodridge, who is the brains behind Brood. Brood Racing. Brood does motors. They're starting to work on a couple of other projects going on in there as well. So we will be talking to Eddie. I believe he does some batteries too. And on the 24th of May, I have Chris DeGraff, who is Hemistorm. If you don't know Chris, he is an amazing artist. He does lots of spray can painting, and the bodies that he paints are out of this world cool. He has unique takes on everything. His artwork is very colorful, and I completely dig it. So I do have other people I'm in the works of sending out some messages to, getting things lined up, and so pay attention, join the Live at 9:45 group, and you'll get the announcement of when they're going to be on the show and so on and so forth. Until then, I'll check you guys all out next week. I'm going to go answer some comments that I've missed all of, and thank you for tuning in and watching. Without you, it's just me talking to a camera, about nothing. So thanks, guys. Have a good week, and I will see you next week.